Hello, I'm Nigel. People have keep telling me that I should watch Barry Crampton in the comments. So I'm going to have a look now and let you know my thoughts.
I am not an EV hater. I hate the people who are pushing EVs. They're just liars. To be fair, using one of Angela Rayner's phrases, they're scum. They have no skin in the game. They want you to lose your money so they can be seen to be doing a job of pushing EVs.
Hi folks, I'm Nigel. Hope you can subscribe and like. And the first comment he said is that the people that push EVs are liars. So this really did catch my attention. And I've been driving petrol and diesel for 50. It's caught my attention. I really enjoy my Tesla Model 3 and I'm never going back to petrol or diesel. Hope you can stick around and just want to find out what we're lying about, and I'll make a comment every now and again. If you can subscribe, hit the bell, that would be fantastic. So let's carry on with Barry.
Just liars. Absolute liars. Don't believe me. Assume that I'm lying to you. Okay? For some reason, I've only found out recently, but I'm working for OPEC. You've not paid me yet, and I could really do with it because I'm retired now. So I'm working for OPEC, but they don't pay me anything. Neither does anybody else pay me anything. So just assume that. Just assume I'm an EV hater. But also, equally, when you go to buy a vehicle, assume, if they're trying to sell you an EV, assume they're ICE car haters. What I want you to do is, before you make a decision on an EV, go through this questionnaire that I'm just about to give you and make sure it's the right thing to do. Because if it's not the right thing to do and you fall out of love with it in a couple of weeks, you'll want to get rid of it. Nobody will want it because there's too many about already, and the only way they'll buy it off you is if they can nick it. If they nick it, then you'll be a very unhappy person because you'll have lost a lot of money in a short space of time. What I'm going to give you now will save you losing a lot of money in a short space of time.
I think where he's right here, he's going to go through a list of things that you should do. And what he's writing is that you shouldn't buy an EV without, first of all, doing your research, including talking to other EV owners. He's referring his questions to dealers, so we'll have a listen to what he has to say.
You ask the salesman and then tick off, put down his reply, what he says, because in future, whatever he says might just save you a lot of money, because you might just be able to hand the vehicle back because the verbal contract that the salesman gave you is not correct. If I was in the job today and I wanted to make sure I would have no unhappy customers, or even better, I would have no customers who could come back to me and say, well, you said this, I'm going to sue you. And I say, no, I didn't say that. Because sometimes, believe it or not, customers misinterpret your words to their benefit. This covers both of you. And I also advise salesmen, if you're a proper salesman, if you're a decent guy, you don't want to rip anybody off, you want to go to work, make a good living, and make a friend who's going to come back next year and buy a car off you, and the year after. If you take him out with an EV, he's out of the market for 4 years. If he's on a finance agreement or a PCP, he's out for 4 years. You'll never see him again. It's the last thing you want. If you lie to him, you won't see him after 4 years either.
Well, I wasn't a car salesman, but I was a salesman, and my customers were ongoing, so I'd recruit someone and you'd see them on a regular basis. So I think what he's just said there makes very good sense.
If I were a UK car salesperson and wanted to correctly qualify a customer for an electric vehicle, an EV, while being fully compliant with the FCA's Consumer Duty fair treatment of customers, I'd structure the conversation around clear, neutral, evidence-based questions that test suitability, affordability and understanding. You can't go wrong with that, can you? What else can I do? So this is a sales floor ready framework you could actually use, and it maps cleanly to FCA Principle 12, good outcomes for retail customers. 1. Customer use and driving patterns. Ensure the vehicle is fit for purpose. Purpose. Avoid mis-selling by understanding real-world usage. How many miles do you typically drive per day and per week? What's your longest regular journey, e.g. commuting, visiting family? Do you frequently do unplanned long trips? To which I'd also ask, have you got any relatives that aren't well at the moment? Because that's when the frequently unplanned long trips come in. How often do you drive more than 200 miles in one day? Do you tow, carry heavy loads, or regularly drive fully loaded? Now basically those are for the FCA link, product suitability and foreseeable harm. Red flag if range requirements don't align with realistic EV performance. 2. Charging access and practicality. This is the most common cause of EV dissatisfaction. Do you have access to off-street parking at home? Are you able to install a home charger? If not, where would you expect to charge most often? How far is your nearest public charger?
Great questions, that, actually. And in the case of the Tesla supercharger, of course, there's no apps, because he's going to go on in a minute about how complicated it can be for apps. And absolutely, when I've tried them, and I do, especially recently, they're not easy. The Tesla, you just reverse in and plug in. It knows the car and it bills your account. And as far as price is concerned, you'll probably hear of the 80, 90 and more per kilowatt hour for supercharging. Teslas are in the region of 40, 50. Most of them are 40p a kilowatt hour during the day, but many of them, not all, but many of them are 20p, 21 and 22p a kilowatt hour, and that's cheaper than you can charge at home. So if you're not far from one of those, then it's almost as good as charging on the nighttime rate. That's the best thing of all, where you can get 7, 8, 9p kilowatt hour. But if you are close, and I'm not, but it doesn't matter for me, it's all down to your own personal circumstances. And if you haven't got a Tesla, then you can still use the Tesla superchargers. There is a monthly fee.
Are you comfortable relying on public charging if needed? Have you ever used a public charger before? I would also ask, how much per kilowatt hour is your local public charger? But anyway, FCA link, clear communication, reasonable expectations. Selling an EV without checking charging access is high risk mis-selling. High risk mis-selling. Did the salesman ask you that? 3. Home energy costs and tariffs. And this is down to total cost of ownership transparency. Are you currently on a smart meter? Do you use, or are you willing to switch to, an off-peak EV tariff?
These are great questions. Can you charge at home? And if not, where is your nearest public charger? And these are things to consider. Yeah, there's certain things you can do before you get an EV. And if you are thinking, it's a good idea to start that process with either Octopus or the others. EDF do a cheaper nighttime rate. I think Octopus Energy are doing one of the best rates. It seems to be one of the most popular. I lived in a flat and I could charge, not an issue there. A lot of people in flats, apartments can. Now I don't. I live in a bungalow on a very quiet Scottish island, and I can charge. But yeah, they're good questions. And I would have sort of argued, because I'm very keen on Teslas. Where's your nearest Tesla supercharger? For example, I'm over 100 miles away. The nearest Tesla supercharger is in Inverness, but that's fine for me because I can charge at home, and I'm on a small island that's you can only drive 8 miles. Occasionally we do go to road trips, and I head for the nearest supercharger at Inverness, and then I go down the country. But nothing wrong with this so far. I mean, this is good stuff, but I'm still waiting to find out where I'm lying.
They wouldn't swap it. They wouldn't swap it, and they wouldn't give any reason why. They just kept saying no. It took me about 7 months to get my tariff swapped to Octopus Energy here. Now also, I would like to go a little bit further here. Description, in my description there's an affiliate link to Octopus Energy. They have some very cheap electricity tariffs, including overnight charging. If you sign up, I get £50 and you get £50 if you use my affiliate link. If your intention is to charge at home overnight on an EV tariff, please don't use my affiliate link, because I don't want you to do that. I've heard and seen too many horror stories about electric cars catching fire when they're charging. I don't want to make 50 quid at the cost of you losing your family and house. Do you think I'm serious? Trust me, I am. I would never ever charge an electric vehicle on my drive, in my garage, while my family are asleep upstairs.
Total nonsense, absolutely. And that's one of the beauties of an EV. You get in, you plug in, which only takes a few seconds, and it's fully charged in the morning. Absolute nonsense. Now you can use a 3-pin charger. It'll put in about 11 miles per hour. Let's say you get in at 6 at night, you leave at 7 in the morning, and so that's going to give you over 100 miles of charging. If you need more than that, you may need a specific charger. But that's one of the great beauties of an electric vehicle. And people all over the world, UK, America, Europe, coming in, plugging in, and they're ready to go. And that's scaremongering. It's not true. You can look up the facts. Well, if he's talking, and I don't think he is, I think he's talking about electric vehicles. If he's talking about hybrids, then yes, they are more likely to catch fire than a petrol car. But if he's talking pure EV, then that's not the case. That's nonsense. They're much less likely to catch on fire. And that's evidence-based. Look it up. But that's absolute nonsense. It's much, much safer. Think about it. Petrol, it's a bomb. It's one of the old, very old, that's an old story. I'm surprised he's still banging on about that, because it's an extremely old story, and the evidence is not what he is saying. And you can show as many pictures of EVs in flames as you like. Likewise, you could also show lots and lots of photos of gas and petrol cars in flames. That's an easy one to do. Anyone can do that.
Do you normally buy outright, PCP, HP or lease? Are you aware that EV values can be more volatile than petrol or diesels? Would a lower than expected future value cause financial concern? For instance, if there isn't any equity on your PCP, would you have a deposit for your next car? Because if not, you're not going to be able to afford a car.
Depreciation is a popular one. Probably not a good idea. I may have mentioned it earlier, not to buy legacy auto, expensive Mercedes, BMW, new electric vehicle. They're probably going to depreciate. And Teslas do depreciate also. All cars do depreciate, but they've pointed the finger very much recently at EVs when it's been proven they're not really depreciating any more than any other car. And during lockdown, a lot of legacy automakers saw it as an opportunity to make an extra buck and put prices up, and that was a big mistake. And some of those cars from lockdown have depreciated the most, but any new car depreciates, and there's nothing new about that. Buy a used one. There's plenty of good used ones about with low mileage, and as far as mileage is concerned, you can drive a long way on an EV, a long way. Many are in use now, doing 250,000 and more miles.
How comfortable are you with using apps, touchscreens and digital services? That's not just in the car, That's when you're trying to charge it, and the pissing rain, you're getting soaked and you're tapping your card on the screen. Are you aware that software updates may change vehicle behaviour? That's, you know, I mean, it does. Some cars stop working. Would charging delays or charger faults cause stress? Trust me, they stress you out like nobody's business. When I went to charge my car the other week, there was one charger working out of the whole row, just one. Only one charger working in Winkley Square. Fortunately. I only need one.
And if you're relying on that, that's not a good thing. Do your research. If you can't charge at home, where are you going to be charging? Somewhere like that. And it's maybe get in contact with the council to get them sorted out before you get your EV. I could go to any Tesla supercharger in the UK or Europe and they're all working. Maybe I'd find 1 in 100. That's an individual where there's another 9 or 10 to choose from. But yeah, it's holding back the EV adoptions. That is not good. That's terrible. It's disgraceful. That's the beauty of the Tesla supercharger. There's none of that. There's no apps. It knows who you are and you reverse in. And I think I've already mentioned you can get them from 20p, 22p in the early hours of the morning, 11 at night till 8 in the morning. Most are around about 40, some go up as high as 50. And a lot of people say it's the Tesla supercharging is so far ahead of everyone else. And I think it is. I'm surprised no one has ever done it. Reverse in and plug in, nothing else. It's so simple. Or you're charging at home. So yes, a lot of people are buying their favourite car, whether it's a Renault, Citroen, BYD, or a new brand, Chinese brand that's coming in, MG. There's lots and lots and lots of brands. So you've just got to decide what's right for you, what you want. I'm biased. I happen to buy a Tesla, and you can call me a Tesla granddad, whatever you like. But I'm not going back to diesel or petrol. Absolutely not. Sometimes people say I'm so biased that I'm so one-sided. But okay, I'll give you a couple of things that I don't like about the Tesla. The smallest model, the Model 3, is too big. They should do a much smaller model. Maybe not as small as the VW e-up or the ID3, but nearer that size would be a big thing for me. And I wouldn't buy a new one, I'd buy a used one. 4 years ago when I bought this, 4.5, they were talking about it, and I had this feeling it was never going to happen, a bit like the Roadster was never going to happen. But I thought it would have happened by now, and there were rumours a few months ago, but I'm not sure if it's going to happen. Yes, they should make a smaller car. Tesla Model 3 is not a big car in the States, but it is a very big car here in Europe and in the UK. The glove compartment would be great. It needs a button rather than on the screen. I don't mind the screen things. I don't use the screen while I'm driving. You don't have to. But I'm quite happy with the layout. It's very simple. It's very clean. And I quite like that. And as far as apps are concerned, I'm not too bad with computers. I'm not a geek, but I've been doing things. I don't panic. I've had an iPhone for a while and iPads quite a long while. Once a month there are software updates where you have to update the software of the car. So the car you buy, after 2 or 3 years, the screen's going to be different, like your phone, in years to come, which I see as a good thing. You have to get Wi-Fi. It's not a big issue. If there was a problem, you could go to the Tesla dealership. But I see that as a positive, that it's regularly getting updates, it's improving, and you obviously have on your phone an app with all kinds of information that you've got. And if you don't want to have anything to do with that, then maybe it's not for you.
An EV, water gets in the battery, it doesn't just chug to a halt, blows up, sets on fire, goes into thermal runaway. There's a video on the internet of a Tesla going into thermal runaway in 8 inches of floodwater in the garage, destroyed the house. There's another film on the internet of a Tesla set on fire back in a jet ski into the water, wife driving, reversing, door locks went, couldn't get out of the car. A husband, fortunately, was nearby. He opened the door, she jumped out, didn't put a handbrake on or anything like that, and it went into the water. Guess what?
Tesla pulling an actual boat.
It continued burning underwater because EVs make their own flammable mixture, even underwater.
Well, obviously reversing a jet ski into water is a big problem in this country, and definitely I would say don't buy an EV. If you've got a jet ski, you've got to reverse into water. No, I'm not making light about it, but yes, we can show a video as a Tesla on fire, yeah, and a jet ski, Tesla reversing a jet ski in the water, yeah, but we can show just as many, 10 times, 100 times more, of petrol cars and bursting into flames. So that's easy to do. Just show a video and keep showing it and keep showing it and keep showing it. Yeah, it happened. It's a terrible thing, and terrible things also sometimes happen, very rarely. And as I said earlier, a Tesla is much less likely to catch on fire than a petrol car, and definitely less likely to catch on fire than a hybrid, which has got an engine and it's also got a battery, and I definitely don't recommend anyone should buy one of those.
Downplaying winter range loss.
An EV, the range goes down in the colder weather, as it does with a petrol car. Nothing new about that. A couple of Christmases ago with Jennifer, we drove from Cornwall up to the very, very top of Scotland, up to John O'Groats, and I mistakenly decided to go through the night, and we were driving through Aviemore about 3 in the morning, and it got to -10, but it wasn't a problem because there's plenty of superchargers on the way, and the range probably went down to about 180 miles, whereas normally I'm getting 220, but that's not a problem because there's a supercharger every 100 miles, so it's really not a problem. So you hear about this. If you've got his car at 46 and it goes down to 36, well, 26, that's not good. But with most EVs, it's not a problem, and that's something that's practically has happened to me. And I know when I went to Portugal and I was driving along some of the roads at 30 miles an hour, the range went above what it had said it should be, which was about 250. It went well over that in the warm weather, driving fairly slowly. So yeah, it's a problem with all cars.
When you've got a fault on your £15,000 battery is, have you had it serviced? Well, what do you mean serviced? Everybody says it doesn't need servicing. Oh yes, I'm sorry, sir. The Maxus, I've told you about the Maxus before. I rang, there was a Maxus in the auction as a non-runner.
Yes, they definitely do need servicing, but it's way less than petrol cars. And the Tesla Model 3 is 100,000 miles on the battery or 8 years, and the same as the drivetrain. And the overall general warranty is 4 years. I had absolutely nothing to pay. I had a small hatch problem where the automatic hatch hydraulics wasn't working, so I had to push it down, so I got that fixed for free. I can't speak of other cars, but yeah, this makes good sense. Check on the warranties. I have no issue with that. He mentioned the 50,000 battery. If you look it up, the average battery to repair costs a fraction of that price, because often it's only just a few individual cells that have to replace. It's unheard of now to replace the entire battery unless it's been in a big accident. 10 years ago it was an issue with Nissan Leafs batteries. People were very worried. Manufacturers leased batteries, which was all very confusing and stupid, but that's not the case now. And of course there's a lot less to go wrong with a battery and a motor than there is with a petrol car or diesel.
Dead cheap. Well, it would be, wouldn't it? Because the battery was knackered. It had done 10,000 miles. It was virtually new. So I rang up the local Maxus dealer. First thing he said was, has it had its 3,000 mile inspection? What's that? Oh, they have to be inspected at 3,000 mile. Is it a service? No, it's just an inspection. Because if it's not, warranty is null and void. How quickly would you do 3,000 miles? So you're driving around for the first month, you forget or you didn't know about the 3,000 mile inspection. From the first month onwards, you've no warranty. You're on your own. And when it goes wrong, you can't afford to, get it fixed. It's not worth getting it fixed because you can get so much off a new Maxus.
Not 100% sure what he's talking about there. I always thought that although I did buy a new Tesla at the time, it wasn't much cheaper to buy one a year or two old. In fact, you couldn't buy one more than 2 years old. There's hardly any difference. Now there is a big difference, and if I was buying one now, I'd probably get one 2-3 years old that's still got warranty left. That would be the warranty, the overall warranty for the car, and I'd also for probably 5 years left battery and the drivetrain.
Do you understand battery degradation over time? Over time, your range is going to come down. There's no two ways about it. Would reduced range after several years be acceptable?
The range of my Tesla Model 3 is 256 in ideal conditions. In reality, I get about 220. It's gone down a few percent. I've done videos on it, my LFP battery. On average, I'm getting around about 220 miles range now. It's gone down, 4 or 5%. Not an issue for me. It works well. Always got more than 200 miles. And of course, in the newer Teslas, you get a hell of a lot more than that. So, not a problem.
Do you know what is and isn't covered under warranty? That's the FCA link, informed consent. Battery issue equals high cost, high emotion disputes. Your battery's gone, like the couple of guys who went out for a meal in Scotland. The weather was inclement. The battery died, got water ingress, and Tesla told them that the battery wasn't covered because they'd been out in inclement weather.
Well, I'd like to delve a bit deeper on that. The Tesla battery warranty is for 8 years, and they went out in inclement weather. Well, Tesla sell cars in Canada, Finland, Sweden. I don't know what's going on there. I really don't know. I don't know the truth, whether that's the truth or not. I have absolutely no idea. A lot of talk about thermal runaway, and it's been proven with fire blankets take the air away and it reduces the fire, and the fire eventually goes out, and you keep the fire blanket on for a continued amount of time. And although an EV, a Tesla EV, is much less likely to catch fire, dealing with them is new, because firemen have not more use with petrol and diesel, and they, as with anything else, they are adjusting. So no, it's a terrible thing when a vehicle's on fire, but there are many new ways being developed to deal with an EV fire. When in the rare occurrence it does happen, but it's much less likely to happen than a petrol car.
For a monthly budget, would higher insurance costs be an issue? EV insurance is going up all the time. More and more get written off for virtually nothing because nobody knows whether the integrity of the battery has been compromised. So they write them off. Are you comfortable with potential future tax changes on EVs? Well, 3p per mile, 2028. Benefit in kind's going up. Somehow, if EVs take over.
Insurance is based on who you are and where you live, and mine has always been very reasonable, and what I have learnt to change it every year, because my insurance company have kept putting it up too much, so I shop around for the cheapest, and I've published it several times. It's in the region of £300, £400, £500, Benefit in kind is going up. It's because it's been so bloody cheap for years and years. I was a rep, and when I finished being a rep, my company car, I was paying benefit in kind, and it was going higher and higher and higher. For a long time, benefit in kind for electric car was zero, so you would save an absolute packet, and it's going up a little bit, but it's still not as much as people are paying benefit in kind for a petrol car.
To find a way of replacing fuel tax on cars, 53p a mile plus VAT. You know, that's what they get off petrol vehicles and diesel vehicles, and then all of a sudden you think they're going to be happy making nothing? No. The 3p a mile is the first stage. Would this cause hardship?
We're not paying 3p a mile yet. It's not due for another year or two. But did you know the tax the government put on petrol equates at the moment to 6p a mile?
FCA linked affordability and vulnerability consideration. EVs are not risk-free financially. Neutral alternatives discussion. This is critical for FCA compliance. Before we go further, Mr. Customer, would you like me to explain petrol, hybrid and EV options side by side, including pros and cons? Would a hybrid better suit your driving? Would a petrol or diesel be simpler for your usage? Do you feel under pressure to choose electric? FCA link, avoiding product bias. FCA expects balanced advice, not EV evangelism.
When you call someone an EV evangelist, you've run out of ideas. That's all you've got. It's an insult. You know, I drove a car, a petrol diesel car, vehicles in the RAF, forklifts, lorries, coaches, you name it, loading equipment, for 50 years. I've had the EV for the Tesla for 4.5 years. It's quiet, it's clean. I love it the way it drives. Maybe you like really noisy vehicles. Great, then definitely don't get an EV. An EV is not for you. And if you like waking people up at 2 a.m. with your very loud vehicle, then that just shows the sort of person you are. I mean, this evangelist thing is just, well, yeah, it's nonsense. He's from the Ice Age, and if I'm an evangelist, he's from the Ice Age.
Based on what we've discussed, do you fully understand the benefits, limitations and costs of an electric vehicle? Do you have any concerns we haven't covered? Would you like time to consider this without commitment? FCA link, evidence of fair treatment and informed choice. What FCA would consider mis-selling? Not discussing charging access. Claiming EVs are cheaper to run without context, ignoring depreciation.
Yeah, do research. If you're thinking of buying an EV, do your research, and if you are set on it, do certain things now. Get your smart meter in, get your Octopus Energy discounted nighttime rate. Don't wait till you've got the car. Do those things now. Don't take my word for it. Talk to any EV driver. If you're thinking of buying a Tesla, look at channels like mine where people have Teslas and give you their experiences, or whatever it is, whether it's a Zoe or whatever car you're thinking of getting, or maybe you don't know. Look at a wide range and talk to people that've got them. I don't think the car salesman, he wants to sell you a car and probably doesn't care what he's going to sell you. In fact, there was a time they'd rather sell you a petrol car because it's going to be in for a lot more servicing. So what does that tell you? But talk to people who've actually got one. Do your research and don't just buy the first thing, because I see an awful lot of people on TikTok are complaining when they just haven't done any research.
Away from ICE hybrid alternatives. Selling finance without affordability stress testing. Best practice outcome. A complaint.
Steering customers away from ICE and hybrid. Well, it used to be the opposite, and I'm not sure if there's any evidence. Who knows? Lots and lots of examples where people went in to buy an electric car and were steered away from it. Maybe it's changing a bit. I hope so, as more and more manufacturers are making electric vehicles.
Documented suitability, clear disclosure of limitations, no pressure, alternatives explained, customer confirms understanding. Now, what happens if, say, somebody from an intelligence unit puts in all the newspapers, everywhere, every newspaper you pick up, what happens if somebody from one of those lobbying groups keeps putting in that you can save £1,500 if you run a second-hand EV? This is before you get in the garage. Because don't forget, if somebody in the garage, you get in the gym palace, somebody in the garage says to you, Mr. Customer, have I got some good news for you? You can save 1,500 quid if you buy one of these EVs a year. And then the customer goes, really? How? Well, I'm not telling you that. You just can. You cannot say that without showing the customer. For instance, you would phrase it a different way. In a sales environment, Mr. Customer, if I could show you that you could save £1,500 a year by buying an EV and not an ICE car, would we have a deal? And the customer would go, like that. The customer would dive away from you. Because as soon as he shakes your hand, if you can show him that, he's under pressure to have a deal.
I've run the numbers many times of comparing running my EV, charging at home and also charging at the Tesla supercharger. I'm not going to go into any big detail here. Look at the AA, what they say. The average cost per mile of running an ICE car is between 14 and 20p a mile. I've showed many examples where at the Tesla superchargers it's under 10p a mile, and can be as little as 4 or 5p a mile at the Tesla supercharger at night, and charging at home even less, it's as little as 2p a mile. So it depends whatever of those bands that you fit into. And yes, it is cheaper. He talks about the lobbying groups that are saying this about how cheap it is to run an EV, but forgets about the oil companies, the legacy automakers and all the garages that really don't want you to buy an EV. They make billions of pounds profit every year, and there's an awful lot of people that really don't want you to buy an EV. A lot more than actually want you to buy one. And I think maybe the kids of the future probably aren't around at the moment, but they really don't want to take over a planet that is terribly polluted.
None of that from these. Everything electric. You save money. EVA, UK, whatever they're called. None of that. So you've got all these people around on the periphery telling you can save money, but you've got no redress on them. You've got no comeback. What you need to do is, if you think they're telling the truth and not me, if you think I'm lying and you can save £1,500, all you have to do when you go in the garage is say to the salesman, can I save £1,500 a year on this vehicle? And he'll go, well, for fuck's sake. If I say yes, he can run it for a year and come back and say, I didn't save 1,500 quid. Here's your pile of shit back. Now give me what I paid for you last year, plus interest. Get rid of these lobbyists.
If you get rid of the lobbyists, then that would mean that the oil companies, the legacy automakers, and the dealers would have a free range. No, there's got to be a balance, and there's all kinds of misinformation coming from oil companies. That is a fact, because lots of newspapers will tell you when an electric vehicle catches fire, but it doesn't tell you when a nice car catches fire. They're being selective with the news that you're getting. And if it's always negative, and there's plenty of stories out there of every day, lots and lots of cars do catch fire. Majority of them are internal combustion engine, but you only hear about the electric car. So you've got to look at balances. I mean, I agree with an awful lot he says. Do your research. You can't put a figure on it. I suppose you could, if it depends on the person's circumstances. But you have to also, it's not just about price, it's also about, and it is, because think about it, if you can charge at home at 2p a mile opposed to 15p a mile, and one of your biggest costs per year in a car is going to be the petrol. And yes, there's depreciation, but you get depreciation on all vehicles. Yes, you could run the numbers, and many people have. They compared the Tesla Model 3 to a BMW. It's no good comparing it to a Ford Focus. You've got to compare like with like, and it's very, very little difference. And that's an interesting thing what he says. Can you guarantee? I think you can. Yeah, I think if you run the numbers, it would be a great example. But everyone's different, so it's no good doing that exercise, because everyone will be different. Someone drives 40,000 a year, some does 12, some, it's different. I used to drive about 60,000 miles in a diesel, and it used to smell, and I was filling up all the time, and every time I did, hands got very smelly. But a lot of what I think what he says, I agree with. I don't agree with everything. I don't agree with the car he's got that has a range of 40 miles. That's ridiculous. And but do your research and talk to people who've got EVs and find out their experiences. I've got a friend hasn't got a Tesla, and he has problems when he goes from the top of Scotland down to Essex, because often chargers are not working. I don't have that problem with a Tesla. So it's a question of, not just a question of what EV you're going to buy. Well, it is a question really of what EV you're going to buy. It's not just a question of buying an EV, which one are you going to buy? So yeah, that's honestly, that's a downside of an EV. I don't get it because I got the Tesla and it knows who you are at the supercharger.
They're getting paid from somebody else, not by selling you a car. Get rid of them. Don't listen to them. Don't even listen to Auto Trader. They haven't really got any skin in the game apart from the leasing company. Don't listen to anybody. Ask these questions to yourself. If you can't answer them, ask the salesman and make sure he sees you ticking them off, because he'll shit blue lights. In future, if he's told you something wrong, that's it. Deal null and void. I'm only trying to protect you and the motor trade from what's coming. And what's coming for the motor trade is not nice, with these people getting involved.
Yeah, he said don't listen to anyone. I would say listen to someone who's owned and run an EV. I'm one of those. As far as being paid by Tesla, I have a referral link. If someone buys a Tesla, they've used my referral link and I get a certain amount of charging, which I've had over the last 3 years, and I've regularly gone on road trips down south. I haven't been doing it recently because I'm no plans to go south. I could probably get some merchandise. So that's my only payment. And I get paid by YouTube between £1 and about £5 per YouTube video. So it works out about £1 an hour. So that's me being honest. So overall, I think what that gentleman was saying makes sense. But I think I wouldn't have said the best place to go is a car salesman or dealer. And there's a lot of car salesmen with YouTube channels telling you not to buy an EV. Well, so what does that mean? But thank you very much for joining me today. Hope you can subscribe, like, and leave a comment down below. And I'll see you next time. Bye for now.